Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is, wherever in the world it is that you are. Welcome once more to another live stream of Alexandra Mayers Live. And tonight we will continue with our page by page reading and commentary of the Bible. We are currently in the book of Exodus. We've reached Exodus chapter 21. Yesterday we were going through Exodus 20, which touched on the 10 Commandments, something that whether you are a Christian or not, most likely are familiar with the 10 Commandments, basically the rule book of being a human being. Many of us consistently break those commandments, but I think it's important that we at least try not to. But today in Exodus 21, we are going to get into the law about servants and the law about violence. So let's go ahead and get started, and I will provide my commentary as I see fit. The law about servants. Now, these are the judgments which you will set before them. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he will serve for 6 years, but in the 7th he shall go free without paying anything. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he is married, then his wife will go out with him. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall belong to her master, and he will go out by himself. However, if the servant plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master will bring him to the judges. Then he shall also bring him to the door, or to the door post, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. Interesting. So being a servant or a slave back then really wasn't too bad, because you technically could only be one for 6 years, and you would be let go in the 7th year. It's too bad within the United States of America, the people who thought that it was okay to indulge in slavery didn't abide by these rules that are in the Bible. Actually, things would have been tremendously different had they. All right, let's continue. The law about violence. And we have someone in here right now who is bringing up something that does not have to do with Christianity or with the Bible. Please, even though I do live streams that have to do with non-religious topics, I would so appreciate it if you would respect this particular live stream and what this live stream is about, and not come in here with what I only perceive as truly evil topics in order to, or an effort to derail this particular live stream. It's very wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to block you from this live stream forever, the person who came in here doing what they did. And you're not welcome back. All right, let's continue. The law about violence. He that strikes a man so that he dies surely shall be put to death. All right, so if you kill somebody, you're going to end up killed. However, if it was not premeditated, but God let him fall into his hand, then I will appoint you a place where he may flee. But if a man willfully comes upon his neighbor in order to kill him cunningly, then you must take him from my altar, that he may die. He who strikes his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. He who kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his possession, shall surely be put to death. Interesting about the kidnapping. Makes me think about what happened with Joseph and his brothers. His brothers sold him into slavery. Joseph was the youngest son of Jacob, who later was called Israel, and Jacob and his wife Rachel. So, he who curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. If men fight and one strikes the other with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die, but must remain in bed, and then if he gets up and walks around on his staff, then he who struck him shall go unpunished. Only he must pay for his loss of time and shall see to it that he is thoroughly healed. Okay, so you have to pay for pain and suffering. If a man strikes his male servant or his female servant with a rod, so that he or she dies at his hand, then he shall surely be punished. Nevertheless, if he survives for a day or two, then he shall not be punished, for it is his money. If men fight and hurt a pregnant woman, so that her child is born prematurely, yet there is no serious injury, then he shall be surely punished in accordance with what the woman's husband demands of him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if there is any serious injury, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. If a man strikes the eye of his male servant or the eye of his female servant so that it is destroyed, then he must let him go free on account of his eye. If he knocks out his male servant's tooth or his female servant's tooth, then he shall let him or her go free on account of the tooth. Interesting. Laws about property. If an ox gores a man or a woman to death, then the ox must surely be stoned, and its flesh not be eaten. But the owner of the ox will be acquitted. But if the ox has had the habit of goring, and the owner has been made aware of it, and he has not kept it in, and it has killed a man or a woman, then the ox shall be stoned, and its owner also shall be put to death. Interesting. Okay, so we're getting into negligence here in biblical times. These are the laws. This is fascinating to me. If a ransom is set for him, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatever is demanded of him. Whether it gored a son or gored a daughter, it will be done to him according to this rule. If the ox gores a male servant or a female servant, then its owner shall give 30 shekels of silver to their master, and the ox must be stoned. If a man opens a pit, or if a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the pit must make restitution. He must give money to their owner, and the dead animal will be his. If one man's ox hurts another so it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and divide its proceeds, and divide the dead ox also. Or if it be known that the ox has had the habit of goring, and its owner has not kept it in, then he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead animal will become his own. All right, well, that's the end of Exodus 21. But this really gives you a good picture as to what life was like back in these particular biblical times, what was important to them, what most disputes revolved around, which was mostly the servants, aka the slaves, which took up a lot of the populace. And it's interesting to me that within the Hebrews who were enslaved themselves, they have servants and slaves also. Oh, talk about hypocrisy. But there must have been quite a bit of violence amongst the people for them to have to create these laws about violence and how things would work out. And oxen, that was their thing back then. And there apparently were probably a lot of deaths due to oxes and donkeys and people digging pits for them to fall in, traps. Wow. So this was a fun read for me, just because I have a very vivid imagination, and I think about what life and times were like in the Bible as I'm reading through this. But tomorrow we will go into Exodus 22, and we'll get into more of the laws of the time. So, everyone, have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining. Sorry about that one interruption that we had, but um, I do involve myself in other projects, and sometimes people simply don't understand boundaries, which is a shame. In life, you have to understand and respect boundaries if you want to get along. If you can't, expect to contend with a lot of problems. So take care. Have a great night. Once more, I'm Alexandra Mayers. Good night.